the end of the lawfare experiment. President Donald Trump was patient zero of the lawfare regime. You see, the Biden-Obama gang realized what they were doing to the country was deeply unpopular. They realized that keeping the borders open and hyperinflating the currency and sending hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine while Americans' purchasing power is decreasing, as people could not afford eggs, bread, butter, and basic necessities, that their popularity was diminishing. They knew they could not win on policies. And so if you are a leader, you have a decision to make. You can either change your policies or you can remove the opposition leader. That's it. It's that simple. You can change your policies to adjust to how the people are processing this information, or you can just get rid of the dissent. You could try to make it a one-party country, not by persuasion or dialogue or discourse or debate or having robust discussion about the issues or coming to common ground or admitting that it's not a good thing to have 10,000 people a day come across your southern border. No. Instead, they went full third world. There was a warning shot that was sent to President Donald Trump. The warning shot was in August of 2022. President Donald Trump was in exile. He was just supposed to be golfing and truth socialing. He wasn't even allowed to be tweeting. Remember, he was kicked off of Facebook, kicked off of Instagram, kicked off of Spotify. He was kicked off of every major social media platform. This is well before Elon. Actually, I think Elon bought X in the spring of 2022, but it was before some of the changes set in. President Donald Trump was supposed to be sit down and be a good boy, stay in exile. And as President Donald Trump started to tease that he was getting ready for another presidential run in 2024, there was a final warning shot when President Trump's home was raided. This was the beginning, ready, set, go, of a moment in American history that we have never experienced before. Total mafioso stuff. Where they basically said, you sure you want to run for president? You sure you want to be president of the United States? Would be a shame if some legal case happened. And they went right in to Melania's closet. They went into President Trump's bedroom. They rummaged through his personal items and effects. And what you are seeing on screen there, Mar-a-Lago, was a warning shot. That was the final warning. And effectively the warning was this. President Trump, if you do this again, if you run for the presidency, we're not going to debate you any longer. We're going to put you in prison. And President Trump had a decision to make. To the right, he could make the easy decision. Just kind of take it easy, go golf, be the kingmaker. To the other side, it was a fork in the road. He could fulfill the mandate and finish what he started. But he knew he would have to go through the most sinister, well-funded, powerful forces on the planet. The oligarchy stood ready to do unspeakable things against him and his family, to literally want him dead at times, as we still have not gotten to the bottom of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. But that was the beginning. The Mar-a-Lago raid in August of 2022. And then all of a sudden we started to see in the New York Times leak after leak after leak after leak. Oh, Donald Trump might face indictments in Georgia. Donald Trump might face indictments in New York. Donald Trump might face indictments by Jack Smith. And that warning shot was ignored by President Donald Trump. And the one who crossed the Rubicon in obviously a coordinated and symmetrical legal operation was Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg was the one that took one for the team with the most shoddy, legally indefensible case of them all. Alvin Bragg indicted a former president for paying off a business records dispute, for covering up a crime even though they can't tell you what the crime actually was. And then from there, the Overton window moved. We then got Fannie Willis, and we got Jack Smith, and we got documents, and we got January 6th, and then President Trump was facing 700 years in federal prison. And basically, the oligarchs of the American regime said, we tried to warn you. When we raided your home, that was the final warning, Mr. Trump. We're not going to let you become president again. Alvin Bragg brazenly campaigned for office on getting Trump. Elect me and I'll send him to jail. Great due process there. The entire case was built on a completely novel legal theory. And in fact, they were prosecuting Trump for covering up campaign finance violations, except the DOJ actually investigated and refused to charge Trump for those same violations. The Department of Justice was right to refuse because the supposed violation was ridiculous. The claim was this: because Trump paid money to Stormy Daniels, he was actually making a campaign contribution to himself because it could help his reputation. By that standard, anything is a campaign expenditure. And of course, the judge was Judge Juan Merchan. The daughter, Lauren Merchan, runs a progressive consulting firm that raised $93 million for Adam Schiff and the Senate Majority PAC. Their central witness was a disbarred, convicted liar. And of course, Bragg's case was just the worst of the New York lawfare. He had a lot of help. The New York legislature also rewrote their laws and repealed the statute of limitations for 1 year just because of President Trump. And then also E. Jean Carroll could bring her ridiculous defamation case against President Trump. They also tried to take his business empire away from him. A biased jury found President Trump responsible for defaming Carroll because he denied raping her when he obviously didn't. Carroll was just obviously ripping off of a Law and Order episode. She couldn't even give a year that this allegedly happened because if she had any details at all, this would have been so easy to debunk. And then there's also Letitia James, launching an unprecedented effort to steal President Trump's businesses. They accused him of fraud, but they had no victims. All of the banks that President Trump did business with said he was a wonderful client. In a case with no victims, they issued an unprecedented move and penalty and moved to dissolve the entire Trump organization, the whole company. The New York governor had to go around saying that, don't worry, we'll only do this travesty to President Trump. Please don't move to Florida. And of course, all of this lawfare unfolded while New York itself went to hell and took aim at heroes like the now free man of Daniel Penny. President Trump was patient zero, and he went through more than any human being has ever had to go through to run for the presidency. Literally getting shot. His business empire almost taken from him. Facing 700 years in federal prison. And now today was finally the sentencing of all of this lawfare. And let us close the book and turn the page on this unspeakably disturbing and dark chapter in American history. Let us never go back to this, but justice is going to come. There needs to be federal investigations into the potential coordination between Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and Fani Willis. These people need to be investigated and potentially even prosecuted. What President Trump had to go through and what our country nearly dodged, both literally and metaphorically, would have turned this beautiful republic of ours into a permanent state of bedlam. And that's what the Democrats wanted. The Democrats were playing with a thermonuclear weapon, and they were okay with it because they knew how unpopular they were, and they did not care. They did not care. For them, it was all about power and holding on to power and doing whatever it takes to try to suffocate the American voter. This is an injustice against the American people. Think about what they wanted, what result Alvin Bragg and Letitia James wanted. If they would have gotten their way, President Trump would be in a jail cell right now. If they would have gotten their way, they wanted to interfere with a constitutional election because they were terrified that President Trump was going to win. And they were right. All of their fear was warranted. That is what is even more chilling, is that this was not just about getting Trump. We hate Trump. It's about revenge. They saw this so clearly They said, my goodness, this guy's a super celebrity. He's going to win the Electoral College. He's a candidate unlike any you've ever seen. We're not going to have COVID again. We have to stop him through the most extreme measures in the history of the country. The most extreme measures we've ever seen. And for years, they try to paint him as Hitler. They try to paint him as the worst person ever to justify the indictment and the proceeding of criminal charges. Today, President Trump was officially sentenced with an unconditional discharge. Let's play cut 144. This is the news report as breaking today, as we are now able to close the chapter on one of the most dark, disturbing, and dare I say, evil moments in the history of this beautiful republic. Play cut 144.
Donald Trump, I thought, gave a pretty effective statement where he said, quite simply, I was indicted because my accountant labeled legal expenses, and that's why I'm here. He said this person could have labeled them concrete or electrical or anything like that. They didn't. They were legal expenses because they were payments to a lawyer. They were logged as such, and now I've been indicted. He also talked about Michael Cohen. He said how he was a disbarred attorney, but yet he was allowed to speak as if he was George Washington. He pointed out from the screen that he was speaking from, he saw into the courtroom and he could see Matthew Colangelo, who used to be a top senior official at the Biden Department of Justice, who left that spot, took a pretty big career downgrade to go join Alvin Bragg and prosecute Donald Trump. He pointed him out and said, this is evidence that the Department of Justice was involved. That was his perspective. And then he said, and I thought this was a very effective line, he said, speaking to Judge Marchand, he said, people watched the trial in your courtroom and the people voted decisively. I won all 7 swing states. And, as he was saying that, I was thinking about, as I walked into the courtroom, that the only protesters, per se, who were here were Trump supporters. And even as I'm standing here right now, I'm looking into a square and I'm looking at people holding Trump flags. I'm looking at a person who has a sign that says, enough is enough. We voted. We don't want this lawfare anymore.
President Trump makes a very astute point. That the voters knew about all this. Not only did they know about it, they were propagandized about it with television ads. Donald Trump is a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. Donald Trump is a felon. And the American people weighed their choices and they decided the merits of this case and the entire idea that you can indict the leading opposition figure. We're not going to put up with that. The American people made a wise and prudent decision, all just to try to get a soundbite to try to say, oh, Donald Trump's a convicted felon. No. Donald Trump's going to be the 47th president of the United States. That's the soundbite that you guys got. You wanted convicted felon. We get 47th president. That's what we get. Fair trade? Fine. You guys get convicted felon. He's going to be in charge of the nuclear arsenal. You guys get convicted felon. He's going to broker a deal for Greenland. It is the ultimate Genesis 50:20 moment. One of my favorite verses in the Bible. What the enemy meant for evil, God will use for good. That was in the context of Joseph at the end of the first book of the scriptures. The enemy meant all of this for evil, and it was used for good. And we wear this as a badge of honor. But I hope all of you, and we need to remember this as we look at President Trump, what he had to endure, and he did it voluntarily. He could have backed off. I'm going to golf. I'm going to go open some hotels. I got a 757 Boeing 200 with Rolls-Royce engines that I like flying around the world. I'm a former president, whatever. And they never would have indicted him. They never would have come after him. They never would have touched him. There's a little quiet broker deal. You stay away, we stay away. Thanks for playing. And he leaned in for you. And he went into the arena for you. And he risked it all. He took the largest risk. President Trump took the largest risk, personal risk of any candidate in the history of politics. And he won. And today he gets an unconditional discharge.